Once upon a time there was a rich king. The king had 3 daughters who roamed the royal garden every day. The king really liked the scenery and trees in the royal garden, especially the apple tree with bright red fruit. The king swore that anyone who stole an apple would be buried 100 hands deep underground. When autumn comes, the apples on the trees turn bright red. The apples are so wrong. The apples are laden with branches from the top to near the ground. All 3 sisters often came to look at the apple tree, but they did not see any apples falling under the tree. The youngest sister saw delicious ripe apples, so she craved them. She told her 2 sisters, "The king loves his sisters very much." The king and number 39's oath was probably only to outsiders, not to his sisters. She picked a big fruit and bit into it. She said, "Oh my God, it and number 39's so delicious, ladies. I have never eaten such a delicious apple in my life." Then she gave the apples to the 2 sisters to eat. Just after finishing eating, the 3 of them sank deep into the ground, so deep that the sound of a rooster crowing for soup could not reach there. At noon, the king wanted to call his children home to eat together. The king looked everywhere, in the royal garden as well as in the royal palace, but could not find anyone. The king was very sad and ordered the whole country to search. "Whoever finds it will marry one of the 3 princesses." Many guys took the trouble to search everywhere. Among them were 3 hunters. They searched for 8 days, and finally they came to a large castle, with many beautiful rooms in the castle. In their room, the food was prepared on the table and still steaming hot, but no sound could be heard or a shadow of anyone could be seen. The 3 waited half a day in the room but still didn't and #39 see anyone. The food was still hot but their stomachs were hungry. They sat down at the table and ate deliciously together. They divided the work. One person stays behind to guard the castle, while the other 2 go looking for the 3 princesses. The oldest person stayed to guard the castle, the other 2 younger people went to search. The first day, a little man came to ask for bread. The castle watchman took the bread, cut a piece and gave it to the little man. This person did not lift his hand to help but let the bread fall to the ground, then told the castle watchman to bend down to pick up the bread and give it to him. While the castle watchman was busy bending down to pick up bread, the little man grabbed his hair and beat him with a stick. The next day it was someone else and number 39's turn to stay and guard the castle. His fate is no different. At night the other 2 went home. The oldest person asked, "Come on, is something wrong?" The other person replied, "Well, I was also beaten to death." The 2 told each other what happened to them, but they did not tell the youngest. The 2 often called the youngest Hans stupid, because he was often slow in doing things. The third day it was foolish Hans and number 39's turn to stay and guard the castle. The little man came again to ask for bread. Hans cut the bread and gave it to him. The little man let it fall to the ground and told him to bend down and pick it up for him. Hans said angrily, "What, can and number 39's you just pick it up yourself? If you and number 39's lazy, it and number 39's not worth eating at all." The little man was angry and told him to do it. Hans immediately grabbed the little person and beat him until he was so weak that the little person had to beg, "Please stop and Don and number 39's hit me anymore." I will show you where the three princesses live." Hearing that, Hans immediately stopped. The little man said he was a person living underground, and there were thousands of people like that underground. The little person said to come along, then he would show where the princesses were staying. The little man led him to a very deep well that had dried up. The little person said that the other two were not sincere, and also did not want to take the risk to find the princess. Therefore, if you want to rescue the princesses, you must do it alone and must carry a large basket, a hunter and number 39's knife and a bell-like bell worn around the horse and number 39's neck. Then sit in the basket, hang the rope to the bottom of the well. There are 3 rooms there, in each room there is a princess. There is a multi-headed dragon sitting guard. Must cut off its head. When he finished speaking, the little person disappeared. At night, the other 2 came back and asked if anything happened. He said, "Oh, everything is good." Then he said no one came, only a little person came to ask for bread. But when he gave it to him, he let the bread fall and told him to pick it up for him. When he didn't and #39 want to pick it up for him, the little person threatened him. He didn't and #39 understand what he meant, so he grabbed the little man and beat him to a pulp. Then the little man showed the whereabouts of the 3 princesses. Hearing the story, the other 2 were so jealous that their faces turned green and yellow. The next day all 3 of them went to the well. They assigned tasks to each other. The oldest person went down first and said, "When I ring the bell, you must ring it immediately." As soon as he reached the ground, he rang the bell and the other 2 quickly pulled him up. Now it and number 39's the second person and number 39's turn. This person did the same. Then it was the third person and number 39's turn, the youngest guy in the group. At the bottom of the well, he stepped out of the basket, holding the hunter and number 39's knife, and heard the dragon snoring. He quietly opened the door and saw a princess sitting and stroking several dragon heads in her lap. He used a knife to cut off 9 dragon heads. The princess jumped up, hugged and kissed him passionately. She took off the necklace on her chest and hung it around his neck. Then he went to free the second princess, who sat stroking the 7 dragon heads. Then he went to free the third princess, the youngest, who sat stroking the 4 dragon heads. The 3 princesses hugged and kissed him passionately. He rang the bell so loudly that everyone above could hear it. He carried the princesses into a basket for everyone to pull up. Suddenly he remembered the little man and number 39's advice, that the other 2 had evil intentions. When it was his turn, he took the heavy stone and put it in the basket. When the basket was halfway up, the other 2 cut the rope and let the basket fall to the bottom of the well. The other 2 thought that was the end of his life. The 2 men set out with the 3 princesses, forcing them to tell their father that the 2 boys had freed the princesses. They went to the royal palace to report to the king. Every guy wanted to marry the princess. Meanwhile, the youngest man sadly walked back and forth throughout the 3 rooms. He thought, "I will probably die here." Suddenly he saw a flute hanging on the wall. He said, "Why are you hanging here? There is no fun here, playing the flute." Looking at the pile of dragon heads, he said, "You can and number 39's help me at all." He kept walking back and forth throughout the 3 rooms, walking so much that the floor was smooth. Suddenly he had an idea, took down the flute hanging on the wall, then brought it to his mouth to blow. Suddenly, a tiny person jumped out from somewhere. For every note he blew, a tiny person jumped out. Now the little people filled the room. They asked him what he wanted. He said, he wanted to get back on the ground. He immediately went straight to the palace. When he arrived, the princess and number 39's wedding was being prepared. He went to where the king was sitting with the 3 princesses. As soon as they saw him, all 3 princesses fell unconscious. The king became angry and ordered him thrown into the dungeon, because he thought he was the one who made the 3 princesses faint. When the 3 princesses woke up, they asked their father to release the young man. The king asked why. All 3 said they were not allowed to tell. If so, the king said, "Tell the fireplace." The king went out, but put his ear close to the door to listen to the story they told. Afterwards, the king ordered the 2 traitors to be hanged. The king married the youngest boy to the youngest princess. Do you know, at that time I was wearing glass shoes. I stepped right on a big rock and it and cranked and and the shoes broke in half. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.